Xenoblade 3 does an incredible job at the art of intros, presenting numerous intriguing statements,
Our world is now dying.
a unique power system, and throwing you in the middle of action. All that in only the first chapter at a good pace. In both the game's script and its visuals, a lot is happening simultaneously, so let's tackle every intriguing point one by one. I'm Zayden, and this is why Xenoblade Chronicles 3's Chapter 1 is brilliant. The game starts off with a brief showing of backstory. To be fair, this is the only part I don't really care about. It's only like 40 seconds, so I won't be too harsh on this. However, there isn't much a player could feel on a first time playthrough about this scene, other than confusion. This scene does enforce the idea to players that the childhood of the Cavas trio is important for them, and the time getting slowed down is certainly thought-provoking. The real meat of this intro comes afterwards, however, because BOOM! A battle scene. And this battle scene throws so much at you, so let's start with what gets said first.
What is it they need to stay alive? Water? Food? Certainly. But what we need most is life itself.
One of my favorite things in stories is when they take a world similar to ours and add a singular rule of nature to spice it up for their story. Xenoblade 3's added rule in people needing others' lives most in order to simply survive can already make anyone theorize about how their world would look like. Such as starting a war for no reason. What better way to take people's lives than with genocide after all?
Because slowly but surely, our world is now dying.
The world of Ionius is dying is the other very intriguing statement in this scene. Not a first for JRPGs to have your world die, but that's because it is an effective way to hook anyone, as it'll arise a desire in the player to save a world so they can feel great about themselves. These are the intriguing things that get said, so now let's talk about things we see. We see Noah's eye light up as he, alongside his allies, pull their weapons out of thin air, giving us the first look at how fighting in this world goes. That does invoke questions into the player's mind though, like, can you just pull any weapon out of nowhere? Or is there any preparation necessary to perform such a task? The next thing we both see and hear is the tone of this battle. It's more serious than most battles in Xenoblade.
Land! Worry about yourself, Noah. There's still more of them. Shut it. Stop flapping your gums and move!
The slightly worried and direct tones all the characters have in Xenoblade 3. It's clear these characters are soldiers through and through, living only to fight, like the games that they do.
Victory! Victory is
As we win this fight, everyone is happy, cheering for their victory, except for Noah. Even throughout the battle, he seemed the most reserved and stoic because of his near emotionless facial expressions and tone. It could have been a thing only in battle, but him also being like this after the fact confirms he's a reserved individual. Furthermore, we get even more of Noah as he's sending off both enemies and allies alike at the end of the battle. This conveys to the player he doesn't care about the place of birth as much as his close allies, and likely even the other people of his nation. After all, Uni and Lance he has known for years, yet even they're skeptical of what he's doing. It would be safe to assume that if even your close friends are skeptical, other people would approve of his actions even less. Regardless, Noah's doing this knowing backlash for his actions is inevitable. Sending the enemy off is a cause he truly believes in, making the player believe he likely values equality, making him the type of person to do what he thinks is right, regardless of the opinions of others. Speaking of sending people off, it's not the most clear thing in the world. I assume, personally, that it's just sending someone's soul to heaven, but the only thing we truly see is a red bit of particle turning into blue and fading away. Personally, I'm really curious what would happen if a person would never get sent off. It'd be cool if they would like turn into a zombie monster or something. The backstory we get shown before we leave for Colony 9 is so unique too. Even as children, they are forced to fight, which just makes so much sense. If you are forced to take the lives of others in order to simply survive, it makes sense that every single person, including children, are raised to fight and be soldiers. Very complementary to the game's setting, these children are indoctrinated to believe that fighting is the only purpose their life has. All while only serving for 10 years, or how they call it, terms. Even surviving means death in the form of a homecoming, but this time with honor, I guess. Because the queen takes your life. Kinda cool, like, because there are gold particles in the air now. Regardless, to any outsider, this just looks sad. So our expression should be fairly similar to what Noah's is, instead of Lance's and Uni here. My only real complaint about this backstory, however, is that it just takes too long. The fight scene between the two different children armies takes about 6 minutes, and you could have gotten the message across in half the time. I was getting kind of bored during this scene personally, but it's all fixed by what it comes after we are done viewing the backstory and sending the Agnians off. We head to Colony 9. Colony 9. They had to call it Colony 9! What a very clever reference. And after we are there, the story has a pretty clear rush to the plot point. Which, to be honest, I don't mind much. It doesn't beat around the bush in important events about to happen either, with Noah's bad feeling about what's about to happen, alongside the lack of details we have, and forces that get deployed that are far above our colony rank, apparently. Whatever is going to happen, it's clearly going to be big. It takes a little while to get to the plot point, but a couple small things do happen. Like this emotional moment with Wamba and how they'll tell him he will make it to the homecoming as he leaves the party, isn't on the box art, and a large story event is about to occur. How obvious do you want to make it that this guy is gonna die? Besides that though, the story is mainly building up the tension for the next big fight. And ooh, what a good fight that is. I love the beginning of this big battle. The sheer chaos going on between 3 different factions, gunfire all over the place, tech that the Kaveshian soldiers are surprised even exists, sets the tone that this will be a fight unlike any they've seen before, which the game has been implying up to this point. Just as the player is understanding the true scope of this fight, the Agnian part of the cast shows up. In battle, they're equals with the Kavesi Special Force. Fights up to this point have been a joke, being somewhat easily overpowered by the Kavesi forces, but these guys are our equals. It's also such a fun fight for the player because you're able to see the power you will soon be using. After this fight is over, both sides are at a standstill because of Van Damme. He asks every member of this battle a question. Why do they fight? It's where Tyon says it is to avenge comrades. However, the loss of loved ones and taking lives from others are mutual experiences these groups share. This is where the major part I adore about this scene comes. It's what Noah has to say here. Noah has had this disdain about the cycle of life within him for such a long time. He finally gets to vent about these feelings, saying that they only fight because they have to. It's the most powerful emotion we have seen from the character so far. Where anyone but him had a somewhat bare-bones answer to Van Damme's question, he takes it a step further, with adding a question on top of his answer, asking who's to blame for the constant fighting. No one here knows. I doubt Noah expected an answer in the first place. Except he gets one. From Van Damme.
You better listen up now, because the face of your real enemy is...
He almost got one from Van Damme. Mobius immediately establishes himself as a threat, showing up with 2 bodies at that, and oh no, Wamba died. Who'd have thought? I don't mind this though. At this point, Wamba's the strongest person we know, and him getting killed exemplifies the strength of Mobius.
Okay, so
post-production scene in here, we never saw a dead corpse of him, so he's probably alive. That's just how anime works. I don't know how I forgot anime rule number 1. I haven't played past this chapter though, so I don't know. Anyway, we fight him, lose because he's obviously stronger, only to awaken our new powers gifted to us by fandom through the container thing. As the player is done beating Mobius with our newfound powers, there should be some questions in your mind. Like, what happened and how did it happen? The only obvious thing is that Noah and Mio fused up and saw the others as memories, giving us little tidbits at the backstories of both characters.
Nothing to apologize, Mio. Sana, take this. I'm giving you my whole self.
Care of ourselves!
Stop crying, lads! It won't change anything!
Such a tease. But the true power of the Ouroboros forms and the mechanics behind it remain a mystery. After Mobius leaves and declares us enemies of the world. Seriously, that's pretty badass. Van Damme's death scene is approaching, and it's so sweet too. The guy died for a reason he believed in, and that's entrusting the power of Ouroboros to worthy individuals. After explaining what the cast has to do, not fight each other, but fight together against Mobius and how to sword mind, he knew he could trust them to this task, as he drew his dying breath. Now our objective is clear, given to us by Van Damme. It's clear what we must do. Tell each other that next time we meet we reunited as enemies and leave. Okay, this might seem like they weren't listening at all to Van Damme, but I interpret this as realistic. These soldiers have been indoctrinated to fight the opposite country their entire life. Believing you should fight together is not an easy thing to accept. Thankfully, they get shot by their former allies. Then realize the only way to live on is to head back to the place Van Damme died and become besties. But gosh, what a rough process becoming besties is, especially for Lance and Tyon. The game lets the cast introduce themselves to the opposite faction. I do like that Noah takes the initiative with the introduction. Noah's character arc is almost perfectly set up now, going from this preserved guy to hopefully someone that'll get happier the more he's able to change the world himself. However, these introductions also work for us as an audience to get to know these characters. How else would we know Uni likes collecting clovers? With that, after this scene, the introduction to Xenoblade 3 and its cast ends, as we head into this venture with many questions left. Some about power systems, like Noah's sword, which the game thinks is very special, and most importantly how Ouroboros' power work, and many more. Some about the backstory of characters. We've seen small tidbits up to this point about Yoren, but when Noah and Mio fuse into their Ouroboros form, we hear parts of Mio's backstory too, making us believe she's probably suffering herself from some fair share of trauma. And the obvious single most important question, who the heck are we even fighting? Xenoblade 3's introduction strikes a balance between the amount of mysteries left to uncover and enough information that we somehow know how the world works. In fact, I'd say our knowledge of the world at this point is somewhat close to what the main cast has, which is a good thing. The further they progress through the story and learn new things, the more we'll learn alongside them. Lots of questions we have on our mind are probably on their mind as well, which makes journeying through the world of Xenoblade 3 all the more exciting. So that was my analysis of the introduction of Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I hope I managed to convey why I liked it so much. The script and presentation of this game has truly been top notch. If you liked this video, I also stream this game over on Twitch. Alongside that, a like and subscribe would really help me out a lot, and please comment down below what you are looking forward to most after finishing chapter 1. I think it's obvious for me, I like Noah a lot. He's been a big topic in this video, such an interesting character to me. Anyway, I've been Zeden, I always will be, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.